Hi, good day everyone. This is Marjorie Alinton, and together with the group, we will gonna talk about the factors that may affect intercultural communication. So, before we proceed to our main topic, let's define first what is intercultural communication. Well, intercultural communication is a discipline that studies communication across different cultures and social groups, or how culture affects communication. It describes the whole range of communication processes and problems that naturally appear with an organization or social context that made up of individuals from different religions, social, ethnic, and educational backgrounds. In this sense, it seeks to understand how people from different countries and cultures act, communicate, and perceive the world around them. It promotes also the development of cultural sensitivity and allows for empathic understanding across different cultures. Lastly, through intercultural communication, we come to create, understand, and transform culture and identity. According to Martin and Nakayama in 2010, they said that intercultural communication is a communication between people with different cultural identities. One of the reasons we should study intercultural communication is to foster greater self-awareness, because our thought process regarding culture is often other focus, meaning that the culture of the other person or group is what stands out in our perception. However, the old age know thyself is appropriate as we become more aware of our own culture by better understanding other cultures and perspectives. Additionally, as we become more self-aware, we may also become more ethical communicators as we challenge our ethocentrism or our tendency to view our own culture as superior to other cultures. Alright, and what are the factors that may affect intercultural communication? Well, according to experts in the field, some of those factors include cultural identity, racial identity, ethnic identity, gender roles, individual personalities, social class, age, and lastly, roles identity. So that's for the background of this topic. So now let's go deeper with our next discussion, and that will be further discussed by our next reporter. Thank you.
Good afternoon everyone, I am Desrin Tialagon, and in this video, I'm gonna share about one of the factors that may affect intercultural communication, which is cultural identity. Culture is the learned behavior of values, attitudes, thought patterns, and ways of doing things that a person brings with them from the place where they were raised as a child. Because each person's norms and behaviors may frequently differ and may potentially clash with those of co-workers raised in different parts of the world. These values and attitudes might have an impact on communication across cultures. And when we say cultural identity, it refers to identification with or sense of belonging to a particular group based on various cultural categories, including nationality, ethnicity, race, gender, and religion. Cultural identity is constructed and maintained through the process of sharing collective knowledge such as traditions, heritage, language, aesthetics, norms, and customs. As individuals typically affiliate with more than one cultural group, cultural identity is complex and multifaceted. While formerly scholars assumed identification with cultural groups to be obvious and stable, Today, most view it as contextual and dependent upon temporal and spatial changes. In the globalized world with increasing intercultural encounters, cultural identity is constantly enacted, negotiated, maintained, and challenged through communicative practices. Remember, there are things that you should be very careful about when communicating with people from different cultures. These things are considered walls that could block the communication process. First is ethnocentrism, B. Discrimination, C. Stereotyping, D. Cultural blindness, E. Cultural imposition, and lastly is the tone differences.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Arnijan Perales Bautista, and for this video, I am going to talk about racial identity, which is a factor that may affect intercultural communication. So what is racial identity? Racial identity or ethnic identity are terms that refers broadly on how an individual define or interpret themselves as well as other races. Although race has no genetic or scientific basis, the concept of race is important and consequential. Society used race to establish and justify systems of power, privilege, disenfranchisement, and oppression. Now, who do you think has racial identity? Basically, everyone. Everyone in the world uses racial identity, whether consciously or unconsciously. In communication, it is commonly researched when studying African American communication. The notion of race is a social construct designed to divide people into groups ranked as superior and inferior. The scientific consensus is that race, in this sense, has no biological basis. We are all one race, which is the human race. However, racial identity is very real. In a racialized society like United States, everyone is assigned into a racial identity whether they are aware of it or not. Examples of races or ethnicities are white, black, African American, American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islanders. Example is when a Latino or a person who originated in Latin America is considered minority in America, or when a Filipino is born in America but his parents raised him with Filipino values, then his influence is still Filipino. However, there are disagreements on how society views various races since each person identifies with the race differently. Sometimes there are complications in interracial friendships because of the differences in the way races communicates, and that is why racial identity somehow affects intercultural communication.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kian Bagayas, and we will talk about social class as one of the factors that affects intercultural communication. So, what is social status or social class? It refers to the relative rank or standing that an individual has in the eyes of others. It is shaped by one's background, education, reputation, perceived power, and position in an organization's hierarchy. To many, social class is an indicator of credibility and legitimacy, and this seriously affects how one communicates with others. Key elements that are involved in an audience's evaluation include title, reputation, and the extent to which people can identify with a communicator's motives and objectives. Status differences can create a bias against those with a perceived lower status. There are two elements of social status: the ascribed status that determined at birth and includes characteristics such as sex, age, race, ethnic group, and family background. And the second one is the achieved status, is that an individual acquires as a result of the exercise of knowledge, ability, talent, skill, or perseverance. And employment and occupation are primary factors in social status, and one's role in an organization is especially relevant within the boundaries of that organization. Determinants of social class. First is education. It is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. Next one, occupation. A person's usual or principal work or business, especially as a means of earning a living. Next one is income. Money that is earned from work, investments, business, and etc. Power. The degree to which a person can control other people. Next one is wealth. Objects or symbols owned by people which have value attached to them. And lastly, prestige. The degree of respect, favorable regard, or importance accorded to a person by members of society. The effects of social class can be felt anywhere. Almost every aspect of society is influenced in some manner by social class, and social background is product of culture. Any culture which has social classes will automatically teach a difference in language and vocabulary used for communication. In terms of communicating with one another, there will always be a boundary that separates high, average, and low-class people through the way they speak or communicate with one another. Rank affects communication. In such situations, those with perceived lower status need to build a goodwill by demonstrating competence and reliability and identifying with common interests. Example on how social class could affect communication. A junior or lower level employee asked to make a presentation to a group of more senior upper level managers may have difficulty keeping their attention at first, even if his information and presentation skills are solid. Outsider status can also be a challenge in communication. This is commonly experienced by salespeople, vendors, and even potential employees. In our society, social class have greatly influenced the communication ever since ancient times up until now.
Good day everyone, I'm Eliza May Bibungan, and for today's discussion, I am going to discuss the gender and role identity. Gender identity is the personal sense of one's own gender. Gender identity can correlate with a person's assigned sex or can be different from it. In most individuals, the various biological determinants of sex are congruent and consistent with the individual gender identity. Role identity. Role identity is defined as the role or character people play with holding specific social position in groups. It is relational since people interact with each other via their own role identities. For example, you were born male but you perceive yourself as a female, that is gender identity. You're a woman and you perceive yourself as an equal of man, that is gender identity. You are the third child in your family, that is the role identity. You are a mother of 3 and an employee of bank, that is a role identity. Always remember that gender refers to your perception of the roles of men and women in the society, and role identity refers to the part or character you play in society.
Hi, good day everyone. This is Ivan Bynum from BSED major in science. I'm a second year college student from Ezekiel, and today we'll be talking about the factors that may affect intercultural communications, and I am assigned in the subtopic of age. So without further ado, let's start this one. So basically, what is age in intercultural communications? The age or the age identity factor refers to how members of the different age groups interact with one another. This might be thought of in terms of the generational gap. And the second one is, how does age affect intercultural communications? There are some cultures like the United States, they are less mindful of their elders and less likely to take their advice into account when making important decisions in life, such as their attitudes towards age cause the age identity factor to impact intercultural communication at the workplace or wherever they are. In addition, the age identity factors, in old terms, this might be thought of in terms of the generational gap again. More hierarchical, it is more hierarchical cultures like the China, the Thailand, and Cambodia. They pay great deference and respect to their elders and their elders' opinion. They put their elders' opinion into account when making life changing decisions. Yeah, but some cases there are still like another culture, for example, the example earlier, the United States, that they are less mindful and that, yeah. And I think that's all, and thank you for listening